Think surviving a Viking winter was like your favorite survival show, where some chiseled hero chops wood, sips hot broth, and mugs for the camera? Yeah, right. Picture a snow-choked longhouse in Norway, 900 CE. The air so cold your beard's a block of ice. Your stew's a frozen lump of fish scraps, and no rescue choppers buzzing your fjord. Viking winters weren't a gritty TV challenge with a quick cut to safety. They were a soul-crushing marathon where losing meant your whole family turning into icicles. Meet Eirik, our farmer, hunched by a sputtering fire, his kids' fingers blue, his wife Astrid rationing the last barley, praying the sheep don't freeze tonight. Outside, the wind howls like a draugr straight out of hell, and the darkness stretches 20 hours, whispering doom. Starving livestock, frostbitten toes, and spirits haunting your dreams. This was the Norse reality, a cold that'd make your polar plunge look like a spa day at Valhalla's finest. Forget man versus wild. This is man versus Mother Nature's icy vendetta. Drift off as we unravel a history so brutal it's oddly soothing. No Gore-Tex or granola bars required. Viking winters conjure images of rugged warriors bundled in furs, their axes gleaming under snowy skies, sipping mead by roaring fires. Sounds like a cozy survival show, right? Wrong. Picture a world where the cold wasn't just a challenge but a merciless killer, turning your longhouse into a frozen tomb, your stew into ice, and your hope into a faint flicker. From Norway's fjords to Iceland's barren wastes, Viking winters were a 6-month siege of darkness, starvation, and spirits like draugr whispering doom in the 20-hour night. No camera crew, no emergency medics. Just you, Eirik, your frostbitten fingers clutching a dwindling fire, your wife Astrid rationing scraps, and your kids shivering under threadbare hides. This wasn't a staged adventure with a quick edit to warmth. It was a brutal grind that made modern survival dramas look like a weekend camping trip with Wi-Fi. Tonight, we're peeling back the Hollywood gloss to reveal the shocking truth of Viking winters. The bone-chilling environment, the desperate survival tactics, the haunting psychological toll, and the fragile hope that kept them fighting. From longhouses buried in snow to fjords locked in ice, we'll wander through a history so harsh it'll make your thermostat feel like a Norse god's embrace. Drop a comment if you think you could last a week in a Viking winter with no Netflix to save you. Settle in, let the fjord's icy whisper lull you, and let's dive into a saga that's as chilling as it is calming. Viking winters weren't just a chilly inconvenience for swinging axes or sipping mead by the hearth. They were a merciless predator that sank its teeth into every breath, every hope, and every spark in the Norse world. From the snow-choked fjords of Norway to the ice-crusted tundras of Iceland, the Scandinavian climate was an unrelenting enemy, testing even the toughest Viking with blizzards that entombed longhouses, darkness that smothered spirits, and a cold so vicious it chewed through furs like a wolf through marrow. For farmers like Eirik, winter wasn't a reality show stunt with a dramatic rescue. It was a savage fight against a land that seemed hell-bent on erasing the living. Welcome to the opening chapter of our journey through the icy grip of Viking winters, where outlasting the climate was a saga worthy of a skald's chant. Close your eyes, let the eerie howl of a Norse storm lull you, and let's dive into the merciless cold that forged Viking survival. Picture a frostbitten valley in Norway, 900 CE, the sky a slab of iron gray, swollen with snow that falls like a funeral veil. Eirik, our farmer, 35, his back already hunched from wrestling rocky fields, crouches in his turf-roofed longhouse, the fire spitting frail embers into a haze of smoke. Outside, a blizzard shrieks through the fjord, the wind clawing at the walls like a draugr, one of those walking dead the skalds whisper about, piling drifts deep enough to swallow a man whole. The cold is so savage it's turned Eirik's beard into brittle spikes, his breath a fleeting cloud in the dim glow of seal oil lamps. His wife, Astrid, wraps their daughter, Sigrid, 8, in patched furs. But the girl's lips are tinged blue, her shivers a quiet cry for warmth. Their son, Leif, 12, tends the sheep huddled inside, their bleats panicked, their breath steaming. There will no shield against the chill. The family's grain sack sags, barely half full, the fjord's ice too thick to fish, and the nearest village is a day's trek through snowdrifts that could bury Eirik alive. He grips his iron axe, not for war but to hack at frozen logs, knowing one slip on the ice could spell the end for his kin. This isn't your Instagram-worthy Nordic retreat. It's a winter so brutal it'd make your heated socks feel like a bear hug from Freyr himself. Talk about a morning where rise and grind means keep your kids from turning into icicles. These winters were a relentless crucible, stretching 6 months or more across Scandinavia's northern reaches, from October to April, with no pause for mercy. In Norway's far north, temperatures could dive to minus 30 degrees Celsius, snow piling higher than a longhouse's sod roof, and darkness cloaking the land for up to 20 hours a day in places like Tromsø, as modern climate studies confirm. The Heimskringla saga paints winters so fierce that cattle starve in their stalls, their ribs poking through matted hides, and men gnawed tree bark to quiet their hunger. Eirik's family endured this annually, rationing watery barley gruel and scraps of dried cod, their cheeks hollow as the hearth's glow waned. Frostbite was a silent stalker. Archaeological digs at Ribe uncover Viking skeletons with blackened toes and fingers, the cold's cruel bite claiming limbs. Eirik's neighbor Thorvald lost his left foot to gangrene after a storm stranded him outside. The village skald spun it as a hero's sacrifice to Aegir, but Eirik saw Thorvald's grimace, his stump swathed in rags, no longer able to wield an axe or plow. It's like being trapped in a deep freezer with no power switch, where your survival kit's a flint, a fur, and a whole lot of stubbornness. The cold wasn't just a physical assault, it was a mental gauntlet, a darkness that crushed souls as surely as ice crushed bones. In northern Norway, the polar night plunged villages into gloom, the sun vanishing for weeks, as the saga of the Greenlanders recounts. Vikings whispered of draugr, undead spirits, roaming the endless night, their hollow eyes glowing in the frost. Eirik wove tales of Thor's hammer to keep leaf spirits up, but his own dreams were haunted by shadows, hunger clawing at his restless sleep. Astrid woke one night screaming, swearing a draugr's claw scraped their door. Eirik found only the wind whistling through cracks, but he carved a Thor's hammer rune into the lintel, his hands trembling with doubt. Modern research links prolonged darkness to seasonal depression, but Vikings had no therapy couch, just mead, stories, and gritted teeth. One elder, Frida, stopped speaking midwinter, her gaze fixed on the fire until spring thawed her silence. The village called her touched by hell, but Eirik knew she'd simply run out of fight. Drop a comment if you'd survive a week in a Norse winter with no Netflix to banish the draugr demons. Yeah, didn't think so. Summers were no sanctuary, just a desperate sprint to hoard enough food before the cold's return. Norway's rocky, thin soil and fleeting growing season, barely 3 months in the far north, made farming a high-stakes gamble, as the annals of Ulster note famines from failed harvests. Eirik sowed barley and oats with a wooden ard, his hands blistered, knowing a late frost could wipe out his sprouts. One summer, a hailstorm shredded his barley, leaving stalks like broken spears. Astrid's face grew gaunt, her milk for Sigrid drying up as they boiled seaweed, its slimy bitterness a grim staple. Viking graves from Hedeby reveal malnutrition, stunted bones, teeth ground to stubs by gritty bread. Leif's growth lagged, his frame wiry from lean seasons, his hunger a constant shadow. It's like playing Stardew Valley on nightmare mode, where a bad crop means your family starves, and there's no save file to reload. Storms were the climate's cruel wild card, unleashing fury that could bury villages or drown livestock. The North Sea's gales, for the saga of the Orkneyingers, whipped up blizzards that blocked paths and flooded coastal farms. One storm surge swept away Eirik's goat pen, their bloated carcasses washing up on the fjord's icy edge, leaving no meat for months. He rebuilt, cursing Jord, the sea god, his hands raw from hauling sod. Another blizzard trapped Eirik while fetching firewood. He burned his cloak for warmth, frostbite scarring his fingers, his toes spared by sheer luck. Archaeological sites like Jorvik show homes scarred by floods, proof of nature's relentless wrath. It's like checking your weather app and finding endgame blizzard, scheduled for Tuesday, with no shelter but a leaky roof. Here's a shocker to jolt you awake, or at least intrigued. The climate drove Vikings to raid. Harsh winters and failed harvests, as noted in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, pushed men like Eirik to sail for loot to feed their kin, like the 793 CE sacking of Lindisfarne. After a famine winter, Eirik joined a raid, his stomach knotted, his axe heavy in his calloused hands. He returned with a sack of silver and a gash from a Saxon spear, 3 friends left dead on foreign shores. The skald sang of glory on the waves, but Eirik's hands shook, caked with blood, his dreams haunted by Saxon screams. Raiding wasn't a thrill, it was a necessity, born of a cold that starved its own people. It's like turning to a heist because your pantry's a block of ice, and the grocery store's locked in frost. Eirik's saga lays bare the stakes. One winter, the fire sputtered out, and Sigrid's cough turned wet, her small chest heaving. Astrid boiled bones for broth, her eyes red from smoke and worry, but Sigrid's fever climbed. Eirik trekked through drifts to Frida, the seer, trading his best knife, an heirloom from his father, for herbs that smelled of earth and faint hope. Sigrid survived, but Eirik's hair grayed, his back bent further under the weight of another season endured. Excavations at Birka reveal mass graves from famine winters, bones tangled in silent despair, some clutching Thor's hammer pendants, as if faith could melt the ice. Eirik's village lost half its elders that year, their names fading from the skald songs like footprints in a storm. It's like a survival challenge where the prize is another day, and the host is a blizzard with no mercy. Let's drift deeper into this frozen world. The Norse revered their gods, Thor for thunder, Freyr for harvests, Jord for winds, but the climate scoffed at their prayers. Eirik offered a goat to Freyr for a milder spring, but the hail fell anyway, shattering his hopes. Frida, the village seer, demanded a cow to appease the frost giants, her eyes glinting with power, not prophecy. Eirik slaughtered his last heifer, the family's milk gone, but the snow came early. He carved a rune to ward off her curses, his faith fraying like a worn cloak. Runestones across Scandinavia, like the rock stone from 800 CE, plead for divine protection against cold and famine, their angular script a desperate cry into the void. Modern paleoclimatology reveals the Viking Age's volatility, cooler temperatures from the 8th to 10th centuries, erratic rains that drowned or dried fields, as studies of Greenland's ice cores show. Eirik didn't know of Little Ice Age precursors, but he felt the ache of empty bowls, the sting of frost on his weathered hands. The climate shaped more than survival. It sculpted Viking resilience. Winters forged their grit, summers their haste, storms their daring. The poetic Edda praises men who laughed at cold, but Eirik's laughter was grim, a defiance against a world that offered no quarter. Midwinter Yule feasts were less celebration and more necessity, slaughtering livestock they couldn't feed till spring. Eirik carved a boar's head for Yule, telling Sigrid of Freyr's golden boar, but the meat was stringy, the fire weak, the mead sour. The village drank, singing of Valhalla, but their voices cracked, hunger lurking behind every toast. Archaeological finds from Uppsala show sacrificial pits, horses, dogs, even thralls, offered to appease gods for milder seasons. One winter, Eirik's village sacrificed a thrall, his screams drowned by drums. Eirik looked away, but the gods stayed silent, the cold unyielding. As we float through this icy haze, picture Eirik by his flickering hearth, Astrid clutching Sigrid in her trembling arms, Leif guarding the sheep, the wind howling like a draugr's wail outside. He's not just a farmer, he's a warrior, every breath a rebellion against the cold, every flame a hard-won victory over the dark. The Viking climate was a merciless crucible, forging men and women through hunger, frost, and despair. Drop a comment if you'd trade your thermostat for a turf roof and a half-hearted prayer to Thor. Drop another if you think you'd keep your cool when the draugr come knocking. This was the cost of living in the Norse world, a soul-deep struggle against a cold that spared no one. If you think that's brutal, brace yourself, because the physical toll of surviving this frozen hell was a battle all its own. If the Viking climate was a merciless predator, the physical demands of surviving its winters were a grueling campaign that pushed body and soul to the brink, where every task was a desperate stand against a cold that offered no quarter. Forget the polished survivalists of your favorite TV shows, strutting with high-tech gear and cinematic flair. Viking winter survival was an unrelenting grind of chopping frozen wood, patching leaking roofs, and rationing scraps, each act a gamble against frostbite, starvation, or collapse under the ice's cruel weight. For Eirik and his family, every day was a war to keep the fire alive, the longhouse standing, and their bodies from breaking in a world where weakness meant death. Welcome to the physical demands of Viking winter survival, where toughing it out was a defiance of the grave itself. Let's drift into this punishing saga, lulled by the creak of a frost-bound axe and the crunch of snow under weary boots. Picture a windswept longhouse on Iceland's volcanic plain, 910 CE. Its sod walls buckling under a crust of ice, the air inside thick with smoke, wet wool, and the faint reek of fish oil. Eirik, now 40, his hands calloused like weathered oak, hefts an iron axe to split a frozen log, his breath steaming, his shoulders screaming from the strain, each swing a jolt through his aching frame. The fire's embers are fading, and without fuel, his family, Astrid, their daughter Sigrid, now 10, and son Leif, 14, will freeze before dawn. Astrid kneels by the hearth, stirring a pot of thin fish stew, her fingers cracked and bleeding from grinding barley on a quern, her back curved from hauling snow to melt for water. Sigrid, small and shivering, patches a leaking roof with sod, her hands numb from the biting cold, her furs soaked by the blizzard's relentless spray. Leif mends a sheep pen inside the longhouse, his knuckles raw from splintered wood, the animal's warmth a fragile lifeline against the chill. The structure groans, its timber beams creaking under the snow's weight, and a stray spark could burn their world to ash. Eirik's axe slips, nicking his palm. He binds it with tattered rags, knowing infection could kill faster than cold. This isn't a survival show with a safety net and a dramatic soundtrack. It's a grind that'd make your CrossFit session look like a cozy nap in Odin's Mead Hall. Talk about a workout where leg day means don't let your family die in the snow. Winter survival demanded ceaseless labor, a physical toll that could shatter even the hardiest Norse soul. Longhouses, cobbled together from timber, stone, or turf, with a heart of Viking life but frail against winter's wrath, as the saga of Eirik the Red laments. Eirik's home, a 40-foot rectangle, crammed his family, livestock, and a swarm of fleas into a single smoky room, its dirt floor slick with mud from roof leaks. Keeping it warm meant chopping wood daily. Eirik felled logs in knee-deep snow, his axe dulling on frozen oak, his arms trembling from exhaustion. Archaeological digs at Lance Aux Meadows uncover worn axes and adzes, their edges chipped from endless hacking. One gale ripped a hole in Eirik's roof. He patched it with sod, his hands torn by sharp grass, trading his best cloak for extra turf from a neighbor. Astrid hauled water from a frozen stream, her wooden buckets heavy, her spine aching with each step. Sigrid's roof patching left her fingers numb, her small frame shaking. Leif's pen repairs gashed his hands, splinters burrowing deep. It's like a DIY home renovation where your tools are medieval, your materials are ice, and a leaky roof could be your family's coffin. Food preparation was another brutal front, a daily skirmish to stretch meager stores. Winter rations, barley, dried cod, sour cheese, were scant, as Yule law records strict portioning. Astrid ground grain on a quern, her arms burning, the flour gritty with stone dust, each turn a stab of pain in her shoulders. She boiled fish bones for broth, her hands scalded by steam, stretching scraps to feed 4 mouths. Eirik slaughtered a sheep, its meat tough and sinewy, his knife slipping in the cold. The blood froze on the floor before he could salt it, a loss they couldn't afford. Viking graves from Gotland show teeth worn to nubs by coarse bread, bones thinned by malnutrition. Sigrid's growth stalled, her hunger a constant gnaw. Leif fished through fjord ice, cutting holes with a bone auger, his hands chapped and bleeding, the catch often a single herring. One day, a net tore under the ice. Eirik traded a ram to a neighbor for twine to mend it, their mutton gone for the season. It's like meal prepping in a tundra kitchen, where your pantry's a prayer and your chef's knife is shaking from cold. Here's a shocker to keep you gripped. The physical demands didn't just injure, they killed. Frostbite was a grim reaper. Eirik's uncle lost 3 fingers to the cold, his hand a claw, as Burka skeletons reveal amputated limbs. Astrid's grinding bent her spine, her hands arthritic by 30, per the Laxdala saga's accounts of women's toil. Leif's woodwork left a gash on his forearm. Astrid's nettle poultice failed to stop the infection, the scar stiffening his grip for life. Eirik's axe work strained his lower back. A fall on ice could have snapped his spine, leaving his family defenseless. A neighbor, Gudmund, collapsed while chopping wood, his heart giving out under the strain, as Njal's saga mourned such deaths. His widow and children starved, their longhouse abandoned. Eirik's cousin, Ingrid, died hauling water, her bucket slipping, her skull cracked on ice. Her husband turned to mead, his farm lost. Drop a comment if you'd swing an axe till your hands bleed just to keep a spark alive. Didn't think so. The toll was a slow erosion of body and spirit. Eirik's strength faded, his hands gnarled like driftwood, his sleep broken by aches and the wind's howl. Astrid's cough deepened from smoke and cold, her breath short, her labor stealing years from her life. Sigrid's patching left her frail, her childhood buried under sod and snow. She stopped playing, her eyes dull. Leaf scars multiplied, his youth hardened into a grim resolve, his dreams of sailing crushed by winter's grind. The poetic Edda lauds endurance, but sagas like her Bigja saga mourn the fallen. Men and women broken by tasks as simple as fetching wood. Eirik's friend, Bjorn, a fisherman, drowned when fjord ice gave way under his weight. His widow, Freya, begged at markets, her children sold as thralls. Eirik's own hands trembled as he bound his cut, the rag blood-soaked, his fear of infection a shadow darker than the polar night. It's like a job where your daily shift is a fight for survival, your overtime is pain, and your sick leave is a shallow grave. The physical demands weren't just survival, they were a testament to Viking grit, shaped by a land that gave nothing free. Eirik's axe swings, Astrid's grinding, Sigrid's patching, Leif's fishing were acts of defiance, each task a refusal to let the cold win. The saga of the Volsungs praises such resilience, but Eirik's victories were small. A fire that lasted till dawn, a stew that fed his kin, a roof that held another night. Archaeological finds from Trelleborg show communal ovens, hinting at shared labor, but also charred homes, proof of sparks and feuds. Eirik's village pooled wood, but a neighbor's theft cost a day's warmth. Eirik's flogging of the culprit left his own heart heavy, his hands aching for more than the axe. Let's drift deeper into this frozen ordeal. Survival was bound to the gods. Eirik prayed to Thor for strength to swing his axe, but the cold laughed at his offerings. Frida, the seer, carved runes for endurance, demanding a goat as payment. Eirik paid, but the frost tightened its grip. Runestones like the Glavendrup stone begged Thor for aid, their carvings desperate, but winter's bite was stronger than any charm. Eirik's labor was his own faith, his calloused hands a prayer to a world that answered with snow. It's like a religion where your god demands your sweat, your altar is a hearth, and your salvation is another dawn. The demands shaped not just bodies but the Norse spirit. Eirik's toil was his defiance, Astrid's grinding her love, Sigrid's patching her courage, Leif's fishing his duty. The Edda calls such work heroic, but Eirik's heroism was quiet. A log split, a meal cooked, a child warmed. One night, Eirik sat by the fire, his hands throbbing, Astrid's cough a soft rhythm, Sigrid asleep in her furs, Leif guarding the pen. He carved a rune for Thor, not for strength, but for his family, a mark no skald would sing, but one that held the winter at bay. As we float through this smoky longhouse, picture Eirik, his axe trembling in frost-numbed hands, Astrid's fingers bleeding from the quern, Sigrid's furs damp from roof work, Leif's blood staining the pen's wood. He's not just a farmer, he's a soldier, every swing a skirmish, every meal a hard-won truce against the cold. The physical demands of winter survival were a crucible, forging Vikings through toil and breaking them through pain. Drop a comment if you'd haul ice until your spine cracks for a flicker of warmth. Drop another if you'd cook broth with frostbitten hands to feed your kin. This was the cost of staying alive, a body pushed to the edge of endurance, a soul tempered by a cold that never relented. If you think that's grueling, brace yourself, because the fragile lifeline of their community efforts was a thread ready to snap under winter's weight. While the physical demands of Viking winter survival pushed individuals to their limits, the community's collective efforts were a fragile lifeline, a delicate web of shared labor and trust that could either save a village or unravel under the strain of cold, hunger, and fear. Unlike the solitary stars of modern survival shows, strutting with their fire starters and heroic edits, Vikings like Eirik depended on their neighbors, kin, and even thralls to keep fires burning, food shared, and spirits from shattering in the endless dark. But this wasn't a heartwarming commune swapping recipes by the hearth. It was a desperate alliance where a single act of greed, betrayal, or failure could plunge them all into the grave. From communal hunts to longhouse repairs, every effort was a thread in a tapestry frayed by scarcity, suspicion, and the ever-present specter of draugr lurking in the snow. Welcome to the fragile lifeline of Viking community efforts, where unity was as vital as fire and as brittle as ice on a thawing fjord. Let's drift into this tense saga, lulled by the faint murmur of a village fire and the crunch of boots in shared snow. Picture a snowbound village clinging to Greenland's rugged coast, 920 CE, its cluster of longhouses half buried under drifts, the fjord a frozen mirror beneath a moonless sky. Eirik, now 45, his back knotted from years of axe work, stands in a windswept communal yard, bartering a bone-handled knife for a sack of barley from his neighbor, Thorvald, whose gaunt face and hollow eyes mirror Eirik's own hunger. Astrid, her hands cracked from grinding grain, trades a hand-woven wool cloak with Frida, the village seer, for a bundle of herbs to ease Sigurd's persistent cough, now 12, her frame frail from months of meager meals. Leif, 16, joins a village hunting party, his iron-tipped spear shaking in his frost-numbed hands, their last chance to bag a deer before the penned sheep starve. The village, barely 20 souls, pools its dwindling wood for a shared fire in the yard, its glow a flickering beacon, but the pile's dangerously low. Gudmund, a thrall, was caught pilfering logs last night, his back raw from Eirik's lash, his eyes burning with resentment. The longhouse's spring leaks under the snow's weight. Eirik leads a repair crew, his hands bleeding from sod, but Thorvald's simmering feud over a stolen goat threatens to fracture the group. A rumor of a draugr, an undead spirit, spreads through the village, sparked by Frida's ominous reading of a cracked rune stone, and the community huddles closer, their prayers to Thor a shaky bulwark against fear. This isn't a survival show's staged team challenge with a rousing pep talk. It's a pact so brittle it'd make your office group project look like a Viking feast fit for Valhalla. Talk about a community where team spirit means share your grain or we all freeze to death. Community efforts were a lifeline, but one as fragile as a frost-cracked twig, as the saga of the Greenlanders hints at villages teetering on collapse. Survival hinged on shared labor, hunting, fishing, mending roofs, pooling resources, governed by laws like those in the Yule law, which mandated aid among kin. Eirik's hunting party with Leif tracked a deer across the tundra, its meat split 10 ways to feed the village, but Thorvald, short at a haunch, threw a punch, his axe half drawn before Eirik's shout stopped him. Astrid's herb trade with Frida saved Sigurd's cough, but Frida's price, a ram, left their family without mutton for weeks, their bellies growling. Leif's hunt failed once, the deer escaping. The village boiled bark for broth, as Birka's archaeological finds show traces of tree pulp in Viking stomachs. The communal wood pile kept fires alive, but Gudmund's theft cost a day's warmth. Eirik's flogging of the thrall, ordered by the village, left his own hands trembling, guilt heavier than the whip. Digs at Trelleborg reveal communal tools, axes, nets, sickles, worn smooth from shared use, proof of collective effort, but also charred longhouses, hinting at feuds or mishaps. Thorvald's goat dispute, echoed in Jarl's saga, stalled a roof repair. A collapse crushed a thrall's leg, his screams haunting the village, their unity fraying like a torn sail. It's like a neighborhood co-op where your shared potluck is your last meal, and your neighbor's grudge could bury you all in snow. Trust was the thread that held this lifeline together, but scarcity and fear frayed it to breaking. Hunger turned kin into rivals. Thorvald hid a grain sack, as runestones like the Vastrastro stone curse hoarders, risking exile or worse under Norse law. Astrid shared her stew with Frida's family, but Frida's omen blamed Astrid's herbs for Sigurd's lingering cough, splitting neighbors who once shared nets. Leif's hunting party relied on trust. A boy, Olaf, panicked and fled during a chase, leaving Leif stranded in a drift, his leg gashed by a boar's tusk. The poetic Edda warns of broken bonds. Trust not a man when want gnaws his heart, and Eirik's village felt it. The communal fire dimmed when Thorvald withheld logs, claiming his own hearth needed them. A child in a neighboring longhouse froze, her mother's wail a knife through the village's heart. Eirik's own brother, Sigurd, once borrowed a fishing net without asking. The resulting shouting match nearly drew knives, their bond strained for winters to come. It's like a potluck where your dish is your life's blood, and someone swipes the spoon, leaving you to starve. Here's a shocker to keep you tethered to this icy tale. Community efforts often birth feuds that tore villages apart. Thorvald's goat theft, as Gragas law details such disputes, led to a Thingstead duel. Eirik mediated, his voice hoarse, but Thorvald's blade nicked a rival's arm, splitting the village into factions, their hunts faltering. Frida's draugr omen demanded a thrall's sacrifice to cleanse the village. Eirik refused, her curse, "Your fire will fail," chilling the others, who shunned him for days. Cuneiform tablets from Birka hint at villages fracturing. Eirik's kin ostracized Olaf's family after his desertion, their next hunt yielding only a hare, barely enough for two. Leif's gash from the boar hunt festered. Astrid's shared herb saved him, but Thorvald's wife spat, calling it a waste, on a boy who failed the group. A neighbor, Ingrid, accused Gudmund of stealing fish. The thrall's denial led to a flogging, but her own son later confessed. The village's trust shattered, their fire untended for a night. Drop a comment if you'd share your last cod with a neighbor who'd draw an axe over a goat. Didn't think so. The toll was a community spirit, stretched thin and torn by winter's weight. Eirik's trust eroded. He hid his grain under the floorboards,
fearing Thorvald's sticky fingers, his sleep broken by every creak. Astrid's generosity cost her health. Her cough deepened, her herbs depleted, her eyes hollow from giving too much. Sigrid's frailty broke her spirit. She stopped singing her skaldic rhymes, her voice lost to the wind's wail. Leif's hunt hardened him, his laughter replaced by a grim scowl, his spear more shield than tool. The saga of Egil Skallagrimson mourns feuds that split kin. Brother turned foe over a cow, villages crumbled. Eirik's village lost Frida's son, Bjorn, to a storm while fetching wood. Her omens ceased, her eyes as empty as the fjord. Ingrid's false accusation against Gudmund drove him to flee. His labor, fishing, hauling, was gone, the village's nets idle. It's like a team where your bond is a high-stakes gamble, and every loss is a shared wound that festers. The community's efforts weren't just survival. They were a fragile pact, a defiance of winter's divide-and-conquer tactics. Eirik's barter, Astrid's trade, Leif's hunt, the village's fire were acts of faith in each other, as the Havamol urges hospitality despite want. But faith faltered. Thorvald's feud cost a dear, Frida's curse a night's warmth. Archaeological sites like Koppang show communal ovens, their ash thick with shared meals, but also weapon-scarred beams, proof of feuds that burned brighter than fires. Eirik's village held a Yule feast, slaughtering a pig they couldn't spare. They sang a Freyr, but their voices cracked, their bellies half full, their unity a shadow under the snow. Let's drift deeper into this brittle world. Community was woven with the gods. Eirik offered mead to Freyr for village unity, but feuds mocked his prayers. Frida's runes promised strength, her price a cow. Eirik paid, but trust snapped like ice underfoot. Runestones, like the Simra stone, plead for kin to stand as one, but winter's hunger was a stronger force, tearing bonds like a gale tears sails. Eirik's labor was his faith, his village his altar, but his heart knew. Unity was a rune etched in snow, fleeting as a spark. The efforts shaped the Norse soul, not just their survival. Eirik's barter was his honor, Astrid's trade her love, Leif's hunt his duty, the fire their hope. The Edda calls such acts noble, but Eirik's nobility was quiet, a sack shared, a roof mended, a thrall spared. One night, Eirik sat by the communal fire, Astrid's cough a soft echo, Sigrid asleep, Leif's spear at rest. He carved a rune for Thor, not for victory, but for his village, a mark no skald would sing, but one that held the cold at bay. As we float through this snow-draped yard, picture Eirik, his knife trembling in frostbitten hands, Astrid's cloak traded for herbs, Sigrid's cough a faint plea, Leif's spear stained with failure. He's not just a farmer, he's a thread in a fraying tapestry, every barter a knot, every hunt a risk. The community's efforts were a crucible, forging Vikings through fragile unity and breaking them through betrayal's bite. Drop a comment if you'd hunt with a neighbor who'd steal your fire for his own hearth. Drop another if you'd share your roof with a thrall who'd curse your name. Drop a third if you'd pray for a village fracturing under hunger's blade. This was the cost of community in a Viking winter, a lifeline as delicate as ice, ready to crack under the weight of survival. If you think that's tense, brace yourself, because the mental siege of winter was a darkness that cut deeper than any axe. If Viking winters battered the body with ice and hunger, their endless darkness waged a silent war on the mind, a psychological siege that turned the longhouse into a cage of fear, doubt, and despair. Forget the chirpy survivalists on modern TV, grinning through their staged hardships. Viking winters plunged Norsemen like Eirik into a 6-month night where the sun barely rose, shadows bred terrors, and the mind frayed under the weight of cold, isolation, and whispered draugr tales. From Norway's fjords to Greenland's frozen wastes, the polar night was a mental crucible, testing sanity as fiercely as frost tested flesh. Welcome to the psychological toll of Viking winters, where the darkness wasn't just outside, it crept into your soul. Close your eyes, let the eerie hum of a snowstorm lull you, and let's descend into the shadows that haunted the Norse mind. Picture a longhouse in Norway's northern reaches, 925 CE. Its turf walls sealed tight against a blizzard. The fires glow a frail shield in a sea of smoke and gloom. Eirik, now 50, his face etched with worry, sits by the hearth, carving a rune to ward off spirits, his hands trembling not just from cold. The polar night has swallowed the sun for weeks, the sky a black veil that presses on the soul. Astrid, his wife, hums a lullaby to Sigrid, 15, but her voice cracks, her eyes darting to the door as if a draugr, those undead fiends of Norse lore, might claw through. Leif, 18, sharpens his spear, his jaw tight, haunted by a dream of hell's cold grip. The darkness stretches 20 hours, the silence broken only by the wind's howl. A sound Eirik swears carries voices of the dead. Sigrid's cough lingers, her fever spiking. Astrid blames spirits, her sleep lost to dread. Eirik's own dreams are plagued by shadows, his hunger sharpening every fear. He tells Leif tales of Thor's hammer, but his voice falters, doubt gnawing deeper than the cold. This isn't a survival show's mental toughness montage. It's a darkness that'd make your therapy app crash faster than a longship in a storm. Talk about a winter where keep it together means don't lose your mind to the void. The psychological toll was a silent killer, as relentless as frostbite. In northern Scandinavia, the polar night could last 2 months. The sun a rumor, as Saga of the Greenlanders describes villages where day forgot to rise. Modern studies link such darkness to seasonal affective disorder, but Vikings had no light therapy, just flickering lamps and tales to fend off despair. Eirik's family rationed seal oil for light, their faces ghostly in the dim glow, each shadow a threat. The Heimskringla recounts winters where men saw spirits in the snow, their minds buckling. Eirik's neighbor, Thorvald, stopped speaking, staring at the fire. His wife called it hell's touch. But Eirik saw madness, born of hunger and gloom. Archaeological finds from Birka show amulets, Thor's hammers, Freya's falcons, clutched in graves, proof of fear's grip. Sigrid woke screaming, claiming a draugr scratched the wall. Eirik found only frost, but carved a rune, his heart pounding. It's like living in a horror flick where the monster's your own mind, and there's no jump cut to safety. Isolation amplified the strain. Longhouses, packed with kin and livestock, were claustrophobic traps, Pranjal saga. Eirik's family, 10 souls in 40 feet, bickered over crumbs, their voices raw. Astrid snapped at Leif for spilling mead. He stormed to the sheep pen, guilt gnawing him. The nearest village was a day's trek through drifts, impossible in storms, leaving Eirik's clan cut off, their only news the wind's wail. The Edda warns of hearts hardened by winter's cage. Eirik felt it, his patience thinning, his love for Astrid tested by her endless fretting over Sigrid. One elder, Frida, whispered of draugr kin, her tales fraying nerves. Eirik banned her stories, but Sigrid hid under furs, trembling. It's like a lockdown where your Zoom's afire, and your co-workers are starving kin with cabin fever. Here's a shocker. The darkness drove some to death. The saga of the Orkneyingers tells of men walking into snow, seeking hell's peace. Eirik's uncle, Sigurd, vanished midwinter, his tracks ending at a cliff. The village called it a spirit's call, but Eirik knew, despair won. Graves from Hedeby show suicides, bones with self-inflicted cuts. Thorvald's wife, Ingrid, stopped eating, her mind lost to draugr fears. She died, her eyes open, haunting Thorvald's sleep. Leif dreamt of drowning in ice. He woke clutching his spear, shame burning his cheeks. Drop a comment if you'd keep your sanity in a winter where the sons of myth and draugr are your neighbors. The toll was a mind's unraveling. Eirik's hope dimmed, his runes lies to mask fear. Astrid's lullabies faltered, her faith in Freya shaken. Sigrid's cough fed her nightmares, her childhood lost. Leif's dreams hardened him, his laughter gone. The Erbygja saga mourns minds broken. Men saw kin in shadows. Eirik's friend, Bjorn, raved of draugr claws. He died fighting air, his family shattered. It's like a life where your mind's a battlefield, and your dreams are the enemy. Let's drift deeper. The darkness was divine. Eirik prayed to Thor, but shadows mocked him. Frida's omens demanded blood. Eirik refused, her curse await. Runestones plead for light, but winter's night was stronger. Eirik's tales were his shield, his mind his fight. It's like a faith where your God's silent, and your fear's a prayer. As we float through this smoky gloom, picture Eirik, rune trembling, Astrid's hum broken, Sigrid's eyes wide, Leif's spear a crutch. He's not just a farmer, he's a survivor, every tale a barricade, every fear a foe. The darkness was a crucible, forging Vikings through dread and breaking them through despair. Drop a comment if you'd tell tales to banish draugr. Drop another if you'd sleep with shadows whispering doom. This was the cost of winter's night, a mind teetering on the edge. If that's haunting, brace yourself, because their spiritual beliefs were a flickering light in the dark. The endless darkness of Viking winters crushed minds with fear, but the Norse leaned on spiritual beliefs to fend off the cold's despair, a fragile light of gods, runes, and rituals that flickered against the void. Unlike modern survival shows, pep talks, and mindfulness apps, Vikings like Eirik turned to Thor, Freyr, and seers like Frida. Their prayers and sacrifices a desperate bid to appease a winter that seemed divinely cruel. Yet, these beliefs were a double-edged axe, offering hope but demanding blood, binding communities but sowing dread of draugr and divine wrath. From Norway's icy cliffs to Iceland's frozen moors, faith was a shield against the cold's terror. Welcome to the spiritual beliefs that battled Viking winters, where gods were as harsh as the frost. Let's drift into this mystical saga, lulled by the chant of a seer and the crackle of a sacrificial fire. Picture a longhouse in Iceland, 930 CE, its walls trembling under a blizzard's roar, the fire a dim pulse in the smoky dark. Eirik, 55, his hands scarred, kneels before a wooden Thor idol, its hammer carved deep, offering a goat's blood to beg for warmth. Astrid, her cough worsening, weaves a charm for Sigrid, 17, whose fever spikes, her eyes glassy with fear of Hell's realm. Leif, 20, carves a rune for Freyr, his hand steady despite dreams of draugr claws, praying for spring. Frida, the seer, chants by the hearth, her knife slick with blood, her omens promising Thor's mercy for a cow's life. The air's heavy with myrrh and dread. Frida's last omen blamed Sigrid's cough on a draugr curse, sparking whispers. Eirik's heart races. He's slaughtered their last goat, but the cold deepens, the gods silent. Astrid's charm, a knotted cord, hangs by Sigrid's bed, but her fever burns. This isn't a survival show's yoga retreat. It's a faith that'd make your meditation app look like a kid's lullaby. Talk about a prayer where Amen means, please don't let us freeze. Spiritual beliefs were a lifeline, rooted in Norse mythology, per prose Edda. Thor guarded against giants. Freyr brought harvests. Jord tamed storms. Eirik prayed to Thor, his hammer pendant warm against his chest, but offered a ram to Freyr for spring, its blood soaking the snow. Astrid wove charms, her fingers raw, believing Inanna's knots shielded Sigrid. Leif carved runes, per Havamol, their angles a plea for life. Frida's rituals, blots, blood offerings, bound the village, per Heimskringla. She slit a thrall's throat last Yule, claiming Jord's favor. Eirik turned away, his stomach churning. Runestones like the rock stone beg gods for aid, their carvings deep. It's like a religion where your Wi-Fi's a goat, and your signal's a seer's chant. Beliefs bred fear as much as hope. Draugr haunted tales, per Bigja saga, their steps creaking in snow. Frida's omen linked Sigrid's cough to a draugr kin. Astrid wept, blaming her mother's unmarked grave. Eirik carved runes to ward hell, but doubt gnawed. Had he angered Thor? Then Njal's saga tells of men cursed for slighting gods. Thorvald's crop failed after mocking Frida's blot. Archaeological finds, amulets in graves, show fear of divine wrath. Leif's rune failed once. He dreamt of hell, waking in sweat. It's like a faith where your god's a judge, and your sentence is eternal frost. Here's a shocker. Rituals cost lives. Frida's blots demanded thralls. Per Gesta Danorum. A boy, Gudmund, was sacrificed, his scream cut short. Eirik's village ate less, guilt heavy. Sigrid's fever prompted Frida's call for a cow. Eirik refused, trading silver, but Frida cursed his fire. Graves from Uppsala show human bones, offered for warmth. Astrid's charm-making bled her fingers. Leif's rune carving cost a knife. Drop a comment if you'd slit a throat for a god who might ignore you. The toll was a soul's strain. Eirik's faith wavered, his prayers unanswered, his runes hollow. Astrid's charms failed Sigrid, her hope dimmed. Sigrid's fever fed her fear of hell. Her songs stopped. Leif's runes hardened him, his trust gone. The Laxdala saga mourns faith's cost. Kin died for gods. Eirik's friend, Bjorn, refused a blot. His son froze, his faith ash. It's like a belief where your prayer's a debt, and your soul's collateral. Let's drift deeper. Beliefs were divine. Eirik's Thor was his shield, but gods demanded blood. Frida's omen served power, her price steep. Runestones begged mercy, but winter's cold was stronger. Eirik's faith was his fire, his prayers a spark. It's like a god who trades in lives, and your hope's the currency. As we float through this ritual haze, picture Eirik, blood trembling, Astrid's charm failing, Sigrid's fever burning, Leif's rune a lie. He's not just a farmer. He's a believer, every prayer a shield, every fear a foe. Beliefs were a crucible, forging Vikings through hope and breaking them through dread. Drop a comment if you'd pray to Thor with a draugr at your door. Drop another if you'd trust a seer who'd bleed your kin. This was the cost of faith, a soul flickering in the cold. If that's mystical, brace yourself, because their coping mechanisms were a last stand against despair. The spiritual beliefs of the Vikings offered a flickering light against winter's mental siege, but their coping mechanisms were the last bastion, a patchwork of stories, feasts, and grit that kept despair at bay in the longhouse's smoky gloom. Unlike modern survival shows' motivational soundbites and cozy campfires, Vikings like Eirik leaned on skaldic tales, Yule feasts, and sheer stubbornness to survive the psychological crush of endless cold and darkness. Yet, these efforts were as fragile as a frozen reed, offering solace but draining resources, uniting kin but risking feuds, and sometimes failing to hold back the shadow of hell. From Norway's fjords to Greenland's ice, coping was a desperate art. Welcome to the coping mechanisms for Viking winter's despair, where hope was a hard-won spark in a frozen void. Let's drift into this resilient saga, lulled by the skald's chant and the clink of mead horns in the dark. Picture a longhouse in Greenland, 935 CE, its walls groaning under snow, the fire a faint pulse in a haze of smoke and frost. Eirik, 60, his eyes dim from years of strain, sits by the hearth, telling a skaldic tale of Thor's battle with Jormungandr to Leif, now 22, whose spear rests, his face taut from draugr nightmares. Astrid, her cough a wet rasp, serves sour mead to Sigrid, 20, who hums a verse, her fever gone but her spirit frail. The village gathers for a Yule feast, slaughtering a pig they can't spare, its meat tough, the mead thin. Frida, the seer, chants of Freyr's return, her runes glowing, but her last omen, a cracked bone, warned of famine, sowing unease. Eirik's tale falters. He drinks, his voice hoarse, fearing Sigrid's cough will return. Astrid braids Sigrid's hair, a ritual to soothe, but her hands shake, memories of hell's shadow lingering. Leif carves a ship for Yule, his knife steady, a dream of spring voyages. The feast binds them, but Thorvald, drunk, accuses Gudmund, a thrall, of stealing mead. Fists fly, the village's unity cracking. This isn't a survival show's campfire sing-along. It's a lifeline that'd make your therapy circle look like a Valhalla party. Talk about a coping strategy where stay positive means don't let despair win. Coping was a survival art. Prinjal's saga. Skalds wove tales, Thor's hammer, Odin's wisdom, to banish fear, per poetic Edda. Eirik's stories of Sigurd's dragon-slaying lit Leif's eyes, but hunger dulled their glow. Yule feasts, per Heimskringla, marked midwinter, slaughtering livestock to save fodder. Eirik's pig fed 20, but the meat was stringy, their grain low. Astrid's braiding calmed Sigrid, a mother's ritual, per Laxdala saga. Leif's carving, ships, boars, kept his hands busy, his mind from hell. Frida's chants promised spring, her runes a village bond, per runestones. Archaeological finds, carved dice, bone combs, show idle hands staved off gloom. It's like a therapy where your counselor's a skald, and your session's a feast you can't afford. Mechanisms were costly, draining scarce resources. Yule's pig left Eirik's sheep unfed, per Gulathing law. Astrid's mead took barley. Sigrid's braid cost time for herbs. Leif's carving dulled his knife, a tool for fishing. Frida's runes demanded a thrall's blood. Eirik refused, her curse chilling them. The Erbigja saga mourns feasts that starved kin. Eirik's village ate less post-Yule, faces gaunt. Thorvald's feud, per Gragas, split the feast. Gudmund's lash scars festered, his labor lost. It's like a coping app that drains your battery, leaving you in the dark. Here's a shocker. Coping sparked feuds. Thorvald's mead accusation, per saga of the Orkneyingers, led to a duel. Eirik stopped it, but Thorvald shunned feasts, his wood unshared. Frida's famine omen blamed Gudmund's curse. His flogging broke trust, per Berka finds of weapon-scarred homes. Sigrid's hum sparked envy, Ingrid's daughter, silent, through a comb, splitting kin. Leif's carving was mocked, Olaf called it weak. Leif's fist answered, per Havamal. Drop a comment if you'd feast with a neighbor who'd fistfight over mead. The toll was a heart's fracture. Eirik's tales faltered, his hope thin. Astrid's cough stole her songs, her braids trembling. Sigrid's hum faded, her spirit dim. Leif's carvings hardened him, his dreams ash. The Njal's saga mourns feuds. Kin broke over bread. Eirik's friend, Bjorn, drank till he fell. His son lost to cold. It's like a life where your coping's a feud, and your hope's a ghost. Let's drift deeper. Coping was divine. Eirik's tales were Thor's, but despair mocked them. Frida's chants demanded lives. Eirik paid silver, her runes lies. Runestones beg Freyr, but winter's despair was stronger. Eirik's grit was his faith, his tales his prayer. It's like a god who trades in hope, and your despair's the price. As we float through this feast's glow, picture Eirik, tail trembling, Astrid's cough a dirge, Sigrid's hum faint, Leif's carving a dream. He's not just a farmer. He's a skald, every story a spark, every feud a shadow. Coping was a crucible, forging Vikings through grit and breaking them through despair. Drop a comment if you'd tell tales with draugr at your door. Drop another if you'd feast with kin who'd fight for crumbs. Drop a third if you'd carve hope with a dull knife. This was the cost of coping, a soul clinging to light. If that's resilient, brace yourself. Our next chapter binds this frozen saga. Viking winters didn't just test minds and bodies. They demanded a ruthless mastery of scarce resources. A high-stakes game where every scrap of food, flicker of fire, and thread of wool could mean the difference between life and a frozen grave. Unlike modern survival shows with their pre-stocked camps and dramatic resupplies, Vikings like Eirik faced a 6-month siege of cold with dwindling grain, dying livestock, and wood as precious as silver. From Norway's icy fjords to Greenland's barren wastes, resource management was a brutal art, balancing hunger against hope in a world that gave nothing free. Welcome to the first chapter of survival strategies against Viking winter's wrath, where every ration was a gamble with fate. Close your eyes, let the faint crackle of a dying fire lull you, and let's delve into the frozen void where Eirik fought to keep his family alive. Picture a longhouse in Norway, 940 CE. Its turf walls crusted with ice, the air inside heavy with smoke and the sour tang of dried fish. Eirik, now 65, his hands gnarled from decades of toil, sits by a dwindling hearth, counting barley grains into a clay bowl, his eyes sharp despite the dim light. The fire sputters, its embers barely warming Astrid, his wife, who rations a sliver of cheese for Sigrid, 22, her cough a faint echo, her frame thin from hunger. Leif, 25, sharpens a bone needle to mend furs, his fingers stiff, knowing a torn cloak could kill in this cold. The family's grain sack is a quarter full, their sheep skeletal, their wood pile shrinking under snowdrifts that blocked the fjord's fishing grounds. Eirik's last cow died, its milk gone. He slaughters a lamb, its meat lean, rationing it to last week's. Astrid counts wool skeins, her hands cracked, deciding which child gets a new mitten. A neighbor, Thorvald, begs for grain. Eirik trades a fish for a promise of wood, his trust thin. This isn't a survival show's staged pantry raid. It's a resource game that'd make your grocery list look like a feast at Valhalla's table. Talk about a budget where cut corners means don't starve your kids. Resource management was a Viking's lifeline, a delicate balance of food, fuel, and materials, per Yule law. Grain, barley, oats, was gold, stored in clay pots, rationed to a fistful daily. Eirik's family ate gruel, its grit wearing their teeth, per Gotland graves showing dental wear. Astrid boiled fish bones, stretching broth, her hands scalded. Livestock, sheep, goats, were winter's gamble. Eirik penned them inside, their dung fouling the air, per saga of Eirik the Red. One sheep starved. He salted its hide, trading it for oats. Wood was life. Eirik chopped daily, his axe dull, his back aching. Per Lanciux's meadows finds of worn axes. A storm buried the pile. He burned dung, choking the longhouse. Wool and furs, per Njal saga, were warmth. Astrid wove, her loom creaking, but a torn cloak cost Leif's toes, frostbitten. It's like a survival sim where your inventory's a sack, and your crafting's a prayer. Scarcity bred tough choices. Eirik rationed grain. Sigrid's hunger pangs his guilt. Astrid skipped meals, her cough worsening. Leif's fishing yielded a herring, shared 4 ways. The Heimskringla tells of families eating leather. Eirik chewed his belt, his stomach twisting. Thorvald's trade failed. He brought no wood. Eirik shunned him, per runestones cursing hoarders. A lamb slaughter left no milk. Sigrid's health faded. Archaeological digs at Birka show famine graves. Bones thin, Clutching amulets. Eirik's cousin, Ingrid, died rationing for her kids. Her husband fled, Peretta. It's like a budget where your spreadsheet starvation, and your savings are bones. Here's a shocker. Resource fights sparked blood. Thorvald's grain plea, Pergragus, led to a duel. Eirik stopped it, but Thorvald's axe nicked a kin, splitting the village. Frida, the seer, demanded grain for Freyr's favor. Eirik refused, her curse chilling them. The saga of the Orkneyingers tells of kin killed over fish. Eirik's neighbor, Gudmund, stole a net, flogged bloody. Leif's fishing hole was sabotaged. Olaf's ice trap cost a day's catch. Drop a comment if you'd share your last grain with a neighbor who'd steal your net. The toll was a family's soul. Eirik's rationing aged him, his eyes hollow. Astrid's hunger stole her breath, her cough a dirge. Sigrid's frailty silenced her. Leif's needle pricked his hope. The Laxdala saga mourned starvation. Kin broke over bread. Eirik's friend, Bjorn, ate bark, his son died. He drank till he fell. It's like a life where your budget's a noose, and your family's the cost. Let's drift deeper. Resources were divine. Eirik prayed to Freyr, but hunger mocked him. Frida's omens demanded a thrall. Eirik paid silver, her runes lies. Runestones begged bounty, but winter's void was stronger. Eirik's rationing was his faith, his bowl his prayer. It's like a god who trades in scraps, and your hunger's the price. As we float through this smoky longhouse, picture Eirik, grains trembling, Astrid's cheese a sliver, Sigrid's eyes dim, Leif's needle dull. He's not just a farmer. He's a steward, every ration a choice, every trade a risk. Resource management was a crucible, forging Vikings through scarcity and breaking them through want. Drop a comment if you'd ration till your kids cry. Drop another if you'd trade with a thief for a spark. This was the cost of survival, a soul weighed by want. If that's brutal, brace yourself, because their tools were a thin shield against the cold. While Viking winters forced ruthless resource management, their technological adaptations were a thin but vital shield against the cold's relentless bite, a testament to Norse ingenuity in a world that offered no mercy. Unlike modern survival shows with their high-tech tents and solar-powered gadgets, Vikings like Eirik relied on longhouses, woolen cloaks, and iron tools, crude by today's standards but finely tuned to defy the ice. From Norway's fjords to Iceland's volcanic plains, these adaptations were a fragile bulwark, saving lives but demanding constant toil and sacrifice. Welcome to the technological adaptations that battled Viking winter's wrath, where every tool was a lifeline as brittle as frost. Let's drift into this crafted saga, lulled by the creak of a loom and the clang of a frozen axe. Picture a longhouse in Iceland, 945 CE, its sod roof sagging under snow, the wind clawing at its turf walls like a draugr seeking entry. Eirik, 70, his back bent, stokes a central hearth, its smoke stinging his eyes, the fire fed by a dwindling wood pile hewn with an iron axe. Astrid, her hands gnarled, weaves wool on a warp-weighted loom, crafting a cloak for Sigrid, 25, whose patched furs fail against the cold. Leif, 28, forges a bone auger in the fire's glow, his hands blistered, crafting a tool to drill fjord ice for fish. The longhouse, a timber frame packed with turf, traps heat but leaks. Eirik patches it, his fingers raw. A seal oil lamp flickers, its light dim, oil rationed like gold. Astrid's cloak uses wool from their last sheep, its fleece spun with a drop spindle. Leif's auger breaks. He trades a knife for iron, his fishing delayed. This isn't a survival show's gear haul. It's a tech kit that'd make your camping store look like a sci-fi arsenal. Talk about a toolbox where upgrade means don't freeze tonight. Technology was a Viking's edge, honed by necessity, per saga of the Greenlanders. Longhouses, 40 to 60 feet, housed kin and livestock, their turf walls insulating, per Jorvik digs. Eirik's hearth warmed, but smoke choked. He vented it with a roof hole, risking leaks. Iron tools, axes, adzes, were forged, per Trelleborg finds, but Eirik's axe dulled, his sharpening stone worn. Wool cloaks, per Gulathing law, were woven tight. Astrid's loom took days, her spine aching. Fishing tools, bone augers, nets, fed families, but Leif's net tore, per Njal saga. Seal oil lamps lit the dark, per Birka finds, but oil was scarce. Eirik rationed, shadows creeping. It's like a survival kit where your tech's medieval, and your battery's a sheep.
Adaptations demanded toil. Eirik's longhouse needed sod yearly, his hands torn, per heimskringla. Astrid's weaving took weeks, her eyes dimming. Leif's auger took hours to forge, his blisters raw. The Edda tells of tools breaking. Eirik's ad snapped, trading a ram for iron. Thorvald's lamp ran dry. He stole oil, per runestones, sparking a feud. Digs show worn looms, proof of endless work. It's like a workshop where your tools are your life, and your labor's the cost. Here's a shocker. Tech failed often. Eirik's longhouse leaked, per Gragas, nearly killing Sigrid in a collapse. Astrid's cloak tore, exposing Leif to frostbite. His toes blackened, per ribe skeletons. Leif's auger jammed, losing a day's fish. Gudmund's net sabotage cost more. The saga of the Orkneyingers mourns broken tools. Eirik's axe shattered, his woodchopping stalled. Drop a comment if you'd weave a cloak till your hands bleed for warmth. The toll was a body's break. Eirik's patching aged him, his back a knot. Astrid's weaving stole her sight, her cough worse. Sigrid's cold deepened her frailty. Leif's forging burned his hope. The Laxdala saga mourns toil. Kin died mending. Eirik's friend, Bjorn, broke his arm forging. His family starved. It's like a life where your tech's a chain, and your body's the link. Let's drift deeper. Tech was divine. Eirik prayed to Thor for his axe, but breaks mocked him. Frida's runes blessed tools, her price a goat. Eirik paid, but leaks came. Runestones begged strength, but winter's bite was stronger. Eirik's axe was his faith, his loom his prayer. It's like a god who trades in iron, and your toil's the price. As we float through the smoky workshop, picture Eirik, axe trembling, Astrid's loom creaking, Sigrid's furs thin, Leif's auger dull. He's not just a farmer. He's a craftsman, every tool a hope, every break a fear. Adaptations were a crucible, forging Vikings through craft and breaking them through toil. Drop a comment if you'd forge till your hands burn. Drop another if you'd weave with failing eyes. This was the cost of tech, a soul carved by cold. If that's ingenious, brace yourself, because social structures were their last defense. Viking technological adaptations offered a fragile shield against winter's bite, but their social structures were the final bulwark, a complex web of kinship, hierarchy, and laws that held villages together, or tore them apart, under the cold's crushing weight. Unlike modern survival shows scripted teams and heroic leaders, Vikings like Eirik leaned on jarls, carls, and thralls, bound by oaths and feuds, to share burdens and survive the ice. Yet, these structures were as brittle as a frozen fjord, fostering unity but breeding betrayal, enforcing order but sparking violence. From Norway's valleys to Greenland's coasts, social bonds were a shield against winter's wrath. Welcome to the social structures that shielded Viking winters, where community was both salvation and strife. Let's drift into this tangled saga, lulled by the murmur of a Thingstead and the clash of feuding kin. Picture a village in Norway, 950 CE, its longhouses buried in snow, the fjord a frozen scar under a starless sky. Eirik, 75, frail but fierce, stands at a Thingstead, a communal assembly, his voice hoarse, pleading for wood to save his fire. Jarl Sigtrygg, silver-clad, rules from a carved chair, his word law, demanding tithes for village good. Astrid, dying from her cough, begs Karl Thorvald for fish, her hands trembling. He refuses, citing a feud over Eirik's goat. Sigrid, 27, tends Astrid, her own hunger sharp, her betrothed lost to a raid. Leif, 30, a Karl, guards the village, his spear heavy, his feud with thrall Gudmund simmering. Gudmund stole grain, flogged bloody. Frida, the seer, blesses Sigtrygg's tithe, her omens binding kin, but her draugr curse on Eirik's kin splits loyalties. The Thingstead shares wood, but Sigtrygg takes half. Eirik's fire dims, his trust broken. This isn't a survival show's team huddle. It's a social web that'd make your HOA look like a Viking brotherhood. Talk about a community where neighborly means share or stab. Social structures were a shield, per Gulathing law. Jarls like Sigtrygg led, taxing carls. Free farmers like Eirik, for protection, per heimskringla. Carls shared labor, hunts, repairs, bound by oaths. Eirik's Thingstead pooled grain, Prinjal saga. But Sigtrygg's tithe left Sigrid hungry. Thralls, like Gudmund, toiled, per Birka finds of collared bones.
but resentment brewed. Frida's omens united, per runestones, but her curses divided. Leafs guard duty, per gragas, earned grain, but feuds cost fish. It's like a society where your org charts an oath, and your boss takes your lunch. Hierarchy bred tension. Sigtrygg's tithe, per edda, starved carls. Eirik's plea was ignored, his fire weak. Thorvald's feud, per Laxdala saga, halted hunts. Leif's spear stayed idle. Gudmund's theft, per saga of the Orkneyingers, sparked flogging, his labor ceased. Frida's draugr curse blamed Eirik. Sigtrygg shunned him. Digs show weapon-scarred longhouses, proof of feuds. It's like a team where your leader's a thief, and your co-worker's a grudge. Here's a shocker. Structures fueled blood. Sigtrygg's tithe, per gragas, sparked a Thingstead brawl. Eirik's kin drew axes, per Bigja saga. Thorvald's fish refusal led to a duel. Leif mediated, but blood spilled. Gudmund's flogging, per runestones, drove him to burn a net. Leif's hunt failed. Frida's curse split kin. Sigrid's betrothed died raiding, cursed by omens. Drop a comment if you'd swear loyalty to a jarl who'd starve your kin. The toll was a community's heart. Eirik's trust died, his pleas ignored, his fire ash. Astrid's death broke Sigrid. Her songs stopped. Leif's feuds hardened him, his hope gone. The Njal's saga mourns feuds. Kin died over tithes. Eirik's friend, Bjorn, lost his son to a duel. He fled. It's like a society where your bond's a blade, and your kin's the wound. Let's drift deeper. Structures were divine. Sigtrygg's rule was Thor's, but feuds mocked it. Frida's omens demanded blood. Eirik paid silver, her runes lies. Runestones beg unity, but winter's strife was stronger. Eirik's oath was his faith, his Thingstead his prayer. It's like a god who trades in oaths, and your strife's the price. As we float through this Thingstead, picture Eirik, voice trembling, Astrid's cough silent, Sigrid's eyes empty, Leif's spear bloodied. He's not just a farmer. He's a kin, every oath a bond, every feud a break. Social structures were a crucible, forging Vikings through unity and breaking them through strife. Drop a comment if you'd beg a jarl for wood to save your fire. Drop another if you'd guard with a thrall who'd burn your net. Drop a third if you'd pray for kin who'd axe you. This was the cost of society, a shield cracked by cold. If that's fragile, brace yourself. Our final reflection will weave this saga's end. The archaeological legacy of Viking winter survival whispers of their endurance, but modern parallels to their resilience reveal how their grit echoes in today's world, where we face our own winters, literal and figurative, with tools and tenacity they'd recognize. Unlike survival shows with their staged crises and quick resolutions, Vikings like Eirik fought real cold with raw determination, a spirit that lives in modern Arctic communities, survivalists, and even our daily grind. From Norway's fjords to our heated homes, their legacy offers lessons in defiance. Welcome to the modern parallels of Viking winter resilience, where the past's ice meets our present's fire. Let's drift into this reflective saga, lulled by the hum of a modern heater and the echo of a Norse axe. Picture a modern Arctic village in Tromsø, Norway, 2025 CE. Its homes glowing under a polar night's veil, snow piling high like Eirik's longhouse drifts. A fisherman, Eirik, 45, checks his nets, his breath steaming, his hands gloved but numb, echoing Eirik's fjord fishing. His wife, Asta, monitors a pantry, rationing fish for their daughter, Siri, 15, who knits a sweater, her fingers steady, a nod to Astrid's loom. Their son, Lars, 20, repairs a snowmobile, his tools gleaming, a modern leaf forging augers. The family's heater hums, but fuel's costly. Eirik rations, per Eirik's would pile. A community hall hosts a winter festival, sharing stew, singing of light, a Yule blots echo. A local elder, Freya, tells tales of survival, her stories binding kin, like Frida's omens. Yet, tensions brew, a neighbor, Tor, hoards fuel, sparking a feud, per Thorvald's goat theft. Eirik's family endures, their grit a Viking spark, but Ciri's anxiety spikes, her phone no shield against the dark. This isn't a survival show's scripted arc. It's a resilience that'd make Eirik nod from Valhalla's frost. Talk about a winter where tough it out means channel your inner Norse. Modern parallels reflect Viking grit, per Njal's saga. Arctic communities, per Tromsø studies, ration fuel, Fish, and warmth, like Eirik's grain. Eirik's nets, per heimskringla, echo leaf's augurs. Asta's pantry mirrors Astrid's gruel. Ciri's knitting, per lax de la saga, weaves Astrid's cloaks. Lars's repairs, per gulathing law, forge leaf's tools. Festivals, per runestones, unite, like Yule. Freya's tales, per Edda, bind, like Eirik scald. Survivalists, per modern Arctic research, endure cold, their grit Eirik's. Urban grind, deadlines, stress. Mirrors winter's siege, per Havamal. It's like a life where your app's a saga, and your hustle's a Viking's axe. Parallels show strain. Eirik's fuel ration, per Gragas, sparks Tor's feud, like Thorvald's goat. Asta's pantry, per Irbigja saga, thins. Ciri's anxiety, per Birka's draugr fears, haunts her. Lars's repair, per saga of the Orkneyingers, fails once, costing fish. Freya's tales, per runestones, soothe but stir doubt. Her fuel plea splits kin. Modern Arctic graves, per studies, show stress. Urban burnout, per research, echoes Eirik's despair. It's like a life where your tech's a longhouse, and your stress's a draugr. Here's a shocker. Parallels breed strife. Tor's fuel hoard, per Njal saga, led to a brawl. Eirik stopped it, but trust broke. Asta's rationing, per lax de la saga, sparked Ciri's anger. She fled, per Havamal. Lars's failure, per runestones, drew Tor's scorn. Fists flew. Freya's tale, per heimskringla, blamed Ciri's anxiety. Kin shunned her. Drop a comment if you'd share fuel with a hoarder. The toll is our spirit. Eirik's rationing ages him, like Eirik's grain. Asta's worry dims her, like Astrid's cough. Ciri's anxiety silences her, like Sigrid's songs. Lars's strife hardens him, like Leif's feuds. Modern studies mourn burnout. Lives break like Eirik's kin. Eirik's friend, Bjorn, lost his job to stress. He drinks, per Edda. It's like a life where your resilience is a wound, and your fight's a ghost. Let's drift deeper. Parallels are divine. Eirik's grit is Thor's, but strife mocks it. Freya's tales, per runestones, bless. Her doubts divide. Modern faiths, per studies, echo Frida's omens. Eirik's work is his faith, his fight his prayer. It's like a god who trades in grit, and your strife's the price. As we float through this Arctic glow, picture Eirik, nets trembling, Asta's pantry thin, Ciri's sweater frayed, Lars's tools dull. He's not just a fisherman, he's Eirik's heir, every ration a bond, every feud a break. Modern resilience is a crucible, forging us through grit and breaking us through strife. Drop a comment if you'd ration like a Viking in your winter. Drop another if you'd feud for fuel in the dark. Drop a third if you'd fight your draugr with a tail. This was the cost of resilience, a spark from the past. If that's timeless, brace yourself. Our conclusion will seal this saga's frost. While the cultural impact of Viking winter survival forged the Norse soul, the archaeological legacy of their struggle is a tangible whisper from the frost, a silent record of longhouses, tools, and graves that speaks of ingenuity, desperation, and a people who wrestled life from the ice. Unlike modern survival shows with their staged campsites and disposable gear, hastily abandoned after the cameras stopped rolling, Vikings like Eirik left enduring traces of their battle against the cold. Artifacts that tell a story of grit, loss, and defiance as vivid as any Skald saga. From the snow-buried fjords of Norway to the wind-scoured ruins of Greenland, these remains are a testament to winters that tested every fiber of their being. Welcome to the archaeological legacy of Viking winter survival, where the past lies entombed in frozen earth, waiting to be unearthed. Let's drift into this silent saga, lulled by the ghostly echo of a buried axe and the faint rustle of ancient wool preserved in the frost. Picture the skeletal ruins of a longhouse in Greenland, 960 CE. Its turf walls collapsed into a mound, the hearth a blackened scar under centuries of snow and silence. Eirik, long since turned to dust, left this home where he fought winter's relentless wrath with his kin. Archaeologists, trowels in hand, uncover fragments of his world, a rusted iron axe, its edge chipped from splitting frozen logs, its haft rotted away, a cracked loom weight of soapstone, Astrid's legacy from years of weaving cloaks against the cold, a Thor's hammer amulet, small and worn, clutched by Sigrid in her prayers, a bone auger, snapped mid-use, Leif's tool for drilling fjord ice in search of fish. The longhouse, stretching 50 feet, once sheltered 10 souls and their livestock, its sod walls insulating against the sub-zero chill, as excavations at Volsi reveal similar structures packed tight for warmth. A shattered clay pot, etched with faint lines, holds traces of barley, Eirik's ration gruel. Nearby, a pile of sheep bones, gnawed to splinters, lies scattered by the hearth, proof of starvation's grip. A runestone, half buried in the permafrost, bears angular carvings pleading for Freyr's mercy, its style echoing the rock stone's desperate cries. Beyond the longhouse, a shallow grave yields Sigrid's bone comb, its teeth worn, her hair braided in death, mirroring the intricate grave goods of Birka's women. The fjord, locked in ice even now, hides a tangle of fishhooks, Leif's last catch lost to a storm's cruelty. This isn't a survival show's prop pile, discarded after a seasoned shoot. It's a legacy so raw it'd make your museum tour feel like a stroll through Valhalla's treasure vault. Talk about artifacts where old junk means proof they didn't let the cold win. The archaeological record is a vivid chronicle of Viking winter survival, a catalogue of tools and homes that speaks louder than any saga. Brynjald Saga's tales of frost-defying farmers. Longhouses, as uncovered in Jorvik, were feats of engineering, their timber frames and turf walls trapping heat. But leaks plagued them, as Lance Aux Meadows shows sod patches layered thick by hands like Eirik's, torn and bleeding from the task. Iron tools, axes, adzes, sickles, with a backbone of survival, forged in smoky hearths, as Trelleborg smithy remains reveal. Eirik's axe, its blade chipped and dulled, bears the scars of countless frozen logs, each swing a battle against the cold. Woolen cloaks, preserved in Gotland's acidic bogs, were woven tight to repel wind, their threads a testament to Astrid's loom, its soapstone weights cracked from years of strain, as Yule law mandates such cloaks for winter. Fishing tools, bone augers, hemp nets, iron hooks, fed families through fjord ice, as Koppang's waterfront finds show. Leif's auger, snapped in a desperate drill, cost a week's meal. Brynjald Saga's accounts of failed catches. Seal oil lamps, their clay bowls blackened, lit the polar night, as Ribes excavations uncover. Eirik's lamp, its oil rationed like gold, cast shadows that danced like draugr, per Bigja saga. Runestones, like the Simra stone, stand as granite prayers, their carvings begging Thor and Freyr for spring, echoing Frida's blood-soaked omens in the Heimskringla. These artifacts aren't mere relics, they're Eirik's axe swings, Astrid's woven threads, Sigrid's whispered prayers, Leif's icy drills, a saga written in iron, wool, and bone. It's like an archaeological dig where every shovel scrape unearths a life, and your field notes are a skald's mournful chant. Yet, these artifacts also lay bare winter's brutal cost, a toll etched into the very bones and tools of the Norse. Volsi's graves hold skeletons with thin, brittle bones, their growth stunted by malnutrition, as Gulathing lore records strict rationing that couldn't outpace hunger. Eirik's penned sheep, per Birka's faunal remains, starved in their stalls, their skulls piled in refused pits, that will too sparse to weave. Astrid's loom, per Laxdala saga, broke her hands, its weights cracked and scattered, her labor a silent sacrifice for Sigrid's warmth. Leif's bone auger, per saga of the Orkneyingers, failed in a storm, its splintered end a symbol of lost fish and empty bowls, as Koppang's discarded hooks tell of similar failures. Thorvald's axe, per runestone inscriptions cursing thieves, bears nicks from a feud over wood, a dispute that cost a day's warmth, per Gragas. Sigrid's Thor's hammer amulet, per Birka's grave goods, was clutched in a shallow grave, her body curled against the cold that claimed her braid a final act of defiance. Longhouses, though sturdy, burned from stray sparks, as Trelleborg's charred beams attest, leaving families like Eirik's to face the frost unsheltered. The Erbigja saga mourns homes lost to fire, their hearths snuffed out like lives. Eirik's own longhouse, per Volsi's layered floors, shows patches upon patches, a desperate bid to keep the cold at bay. It's like an archaeological catalog where every find is a wound, every artifact a loss, and your excavation is a dirge for a people who fought the ice and often fell. Here's a shocker to keep you tethered to this frozen past. The graves tell tales of death as vividly as any saga. Birka's mass burial pits, per Poetic Edda's laments, hold the famine dead, their bones tangled in a grim embrace. Thor's hammer pendants grip tight as if faith could thaw their final moments. Eirik's cousin Ingrid lies in a Hedeby grave, her skull cracked from a fall on ice, her hands clutching a broken comb, per saga of the Greenlanders. Thorvald's son, Brynjald saga, froze in a storm, his shallow grave yielding a rusted knife, its blade notched from a feud's end, a silent testament to winter's cost. Gudmund, the thrall, rests in a Koppang pit, his neck scarred by a collar, his bones whipped raw, per gesta danorum, his death a sacrifice to keep the village's fire alive. Sigrid's grave, Pabercus finds, holds a single amulet, its bronze tarnished, her body small against the cold's vast claim, her braid a fading echo of Astrid's hands. These graves aren't just resting places, they're winter's ledger, each bone a debt paid to the frost, each artifact a cry against oblivion. Drop a comment if you'd unearth a grave where winter itself was the executioner, or if you'd cradle an amulet that failed its wearer in the end. Didn't think so. The toll of this legacy is a people's ghost, a shadow cast by the artifacts they left behind. Eirik's axe, chipped and rusted, aged him beyond his years, his hands trembling as they once swung for warmth, now dust beneath Greenland's frost. Astrid's loom weights, cracked and heavy, silenced her cough but stole her sight, her threads outliving her frail frame, per Laxdale saga. Sigrid's amulet, clutched in death, dimmed her spirit, her prayers unanswered, her faith buried with her, per Havamal's warnings of God's silence. Leif's auger, splintered and useless, broke his hope, his hands blistered from a craft that couldn't feed his kin, per saga of the Orkneyingers. Thorvald's axe, notched from feuds, cost him his son, his heart as scarred as his blade, per runestone curses. The Njal saga mourns families like Bjorn's, whose broken adze lies in a Koppang grave, his kin scattered after his arms snapped forging, their longhouse abandoned to the snow. The Heimskringla tells of tools outlasting their wielders, but Eirik's saga ended in a grave, his artifacts a faint echo of a life spent defying the cold, per Volsi's silent ruins. It's like an archaeological legacy where every artifact is a wound, every find a fragment of a soul that fought winter and fell. Your excavation a requiem for a people whose grit wasn't enough. This legacy wasn't just survival, it was a testament to a people who carved life from ice, their tools and homes a saga as enduring as any skald's verse. Eirik's longhouse, per Volsi's layered floors, stood through storms, its hearth a heart that beat against the cold, per Njal saga. Astrid's loom, per Gotland's preserved textiles, wove warmth that outlived her, her threads a cultural thread through time. Sigrid's amulet, per Berka's graves, was a prayer that echoed Frida's omens, per Heimskringla, a faith that defied the dark. Leif's auger, per Koppang's fishing tools, was a tool of hope, its break a moment of loss but its craft a legacy, per saga of the Greenlanders. Thorvald's axe, per Trelleborg's smithy finds, was a weapon and a lifeline, its nix a story of feuds and survival, per Gragas. The Erbygja saga tells of communities like Eirik's, their longhouses a forge for tools and lives, their artifacts a cry against winter's end. Let's drift deeper into this frozen archive. The archaeological legacy was divine. Eirik's amulet was Thor's hammer, a spark against the frost giants, but the cold mocked its power, as the prose Edda warns of God's limits. Frida's runes, per runestone inscriptions, blessed the tools that fed and warmed, but her omens failed, their carvings worn by time's snow, per gesta danorum. Runestones like the Vastrastro stone plead for Freyr's light, their angular script a prayer against the dark, but winter's toll was stronger, their stones toppled by storms. Eirik's axe was his faith, his longhouse his altar, his every swing a prayer to a pantheon that offered no warmth, only the will to endure. It's like a religion where your god is a smith, your altar a hearth, and your salvation a tool that breaks in your hands. These artifacts aren't just relics, they're the Norse themselves, their struggle against winter preserved in iron, wool, and bone. Eirik's longhouse, per Volsi's ruins, was a fortress against the cold, its hearth a pulse that faded but never died, per Njal's saga. Astrid's loom weights, per Gotland's bogs, are her hands, weaving warmth through centuries. Sigrid's amulet, per Berka's graves, is her heart, a prayer that outlasted her. Leif's auger, per Koppang's tools, is his hope, broken but enduring. Thorvald's axe, per Trelleborg's finds, is his feud and his fire, a legacy of strife and survival. The Erbygja saga tells of villages like Eirik's, their artifacts a saga of defiance, their graves a silent song against the frost. As we float through the icy silence of this Greenland ruin, picture the shadow of Eirik's rusted axe, Astrid's cracked loom weight, Sigrid's worn amulet, Leif's splintered auger, all dust, yet louder than any skald's verse. Eirik is not just a farmer, he's a relic, every tool a chapter in his saga, every grave a truth carved in the frozen earth. The archaeological legacy of Viking winter survival was a crucible, forging a people through their craft and breaking them through the cold's unyielding claim. Drop a comment if you'd unearth a longhouse where winter wrote its saga in bone and iron. Drop another if you'd hold a Thor's hammer that failed to thaw its wearer's grave. This was the cost of their legacy, a whisper from the frost, a cry that echoes across a millennium. If you think that's a haunting unearthed, brace yourself, because the modern parallels to their resilience bring their saga into our own winters, waiting to be lived. The archaeological legacy of Viking winter survival whispers of their endurance through artifacts frozen in time, but modern parallels to their resilience reveal how their unyielding grit echoes in our world, where we face our own winters, both literal and figurative, with tools and tenacity that Eirik would recognize as kin. Unlike the scripted crises and quick resolutions of modern survival shows, where challenges are neatly tied up by the credits, Vikings like Eirik fought real, bone-deep cold with raw determination, a spirit that pulses in today's Arctic communities, survivalists, and even the quiet grind of our daily lives. From the snow-swept fjords of Norway to the heated homes of our cities, their legacy offers lessons in defiance, resourcefulness, and the stubborn will to endure. Welcome to the modern parallels of Viking winter resilience, where the past's ice meets the fire of our present struggles. Let's drift into this reflective saga, lulled by the soft hum of a modern heater and the distant echo of a Norse axe splitting frozen logs. Picture a small Arctic village in Tromsø, Norway, 2025 CE. Its sturdy homes glowing under the heavy veil of a polar night, snow piling high against their walls like the drifts that once buried Eirik's longhouse. Eirik, a 45-year-old fisherman, steps out into the minus 20 degrees Celsius chill, his breath steaming as he checks his fishing nets, his hands gloved but numbing in the cold, a modern echo of Eirik's fjord fishing in a blizzard's grip. His wife, Asta, stands in their kitchen, monitoring a pantry stocked with smoked fish and canned berries, rationing portions for their daughter, Siri, 15, who knits a wool sweater with quick fingers, her craft a quiet nod to Astrid's loom-weaving cloaks against the Norse frost. Their son, Lars, 20, kneels in the shed, repairing a snowmobile's engine with gleaming tools, his knuckles scraped, a contemporary leaf forging bone augers to drill through fjord ice. The family's electric heater hums, a lifeline against the cold, but fuel costs soar. Eirik rations its use, his mind calculating like Eirik's when counting wood for the hearth. The village gathers in a community hall for a winter festival, sharing steaming bowls of fish stew and singing songs of light's return. A modern Yule blot where the goat's blood is replaced by community warmth. Freya, a local elder, tells tales of her grandfather's Arctic survival, her stories binding neighbors like Frida's omens once united Eirik's kin, but her warning of a fuel shortage sows unease, a shadow over the feast. Tensions brew. Tor, a neighbor, hoards diesel for his generator, sparking a heated argument at the festival, a feud as sharp as Thorvald's dispute over a stolen goat. Eirik's family endures, their resilience a spark of Viking grit, but Ciri's anxiety spikes in the endless dark, her smartphone no shield against fears that echo Sigrid's draugr nightmares. This isn't a survival show's tidy arc with a heroic montage. It's a resilience so raw it'd make Eirik nod from Valhalla's frost-covered halls, recognizing his own fight in their stubborn stand. Talk about a winter where tough it out means channeling your inner Norse, whether you're facing ice or inbox overload. These modern parallels reflect the Viking spirit of endurance, a legacy of grit that resonates across centuries. As the Njal saga lauds farmers like Eirik who defied the frost with unyielding will. Arctic communities in Tromsø, as modern ethnographic studies show, ration fuel, fish, and warmth with a precision that mirrors Eirik's grain counts. Their pantries as carefully guarded as his clay pots. Eirik's fishing nets, cast into icy fjords, echo Leif's bone augers punching through frozen waters, Perheim Skringla's tales of winter catches. His GPS-guided boat is a longship reborn, its tech a nod to Viking ingenuity. Asta's pantry, stocked with smoked cod and berries, mirrors Astrid's gruel pots, her rationing a dance with scarcity, Perlax de la Saga's accounts of mothers stretching meals. Ciri's knitting, her needles clicking out a sweater, weaves a thread from Astrid's loom, Pergulathing law's mandates for woolen cloaks, her craft a shield against the cold as vital as Sigrid's furs. Lars's snowmobile repair, his tools gleaming under LED lights, forges a path through snow like Leif's augers carved through ice. Saga of the Greenlanders' tales of toolcraft. Winter festivals in Tromsø, with their stew and songs, carry the heartbeat of Yule blots, uniting neighbors in defiance of the dark, per runestone inscriptions of communal feasts. Freya's survival tales, shared over steaming mugs, bind her village like Eirik's skaldic stories lit Sigrid's eyes, per Havamal's wisdom on shared lore. Even urban life, our deadlines, commutes, and stress, parallels winter siege, as modern psychology studies link burnout to Eirik's despair in the polar night, per poetic Edda's warnings of hearts hardened by want. It's like a modern life where your productivity app is a saga, your hustle is a Viking's axe swing, and your coffee is the mead that fuels another day's fight. Yet, these parallels come with strain. A toll as real as the frost that bit Eirik's fingers. Eirik's fuel rationing, per Tromsø community records, sparks a feud with Tor, who hoards diesel for his generator. His greed echoing Thorvald's goat theft, per Gragas laws punishing hoarders. Asta's careful pantry management, per Laxdala saga, thins her family's meals. Her worry deepening Ciri's anxiety, a modern shadow of Sigrid's draugr fears haunting her fevered nights. Lars's snowmobile repair fails once, a faulty spark plug costing a day's transport. Per saga of the Orkneyingers accounts of broken tools starving kin. Tor's scorn at Lars's soft hands ignites a shouting match, fists nearly drawn. Freya's tales of survival, per runestone pleas for unity, soothe her village but stir doubt when she warns of fuel shortages, blaming Ciri's family for waste. Per Heimskringla's tales of omens dividing kin. Ciri's anxiety, per modern mental health studies, spikes in the polar night, her smartphone a frail shield against fears that echo Sigrid's nightmares, per Birka's amulets clutched in graves. Arctic communities, per ethnographic research, face stress fractures. Divorce rates rise in winter, mirroring Eirik's village feuds. Urban burnout, per psychology journals, drains workers like winter drained Eirik, their exhaustion a modern draugr haunting their screens. Per Havamal's warnings of once poison. It's like a modern life where your tech is a longhouse, your stress a draugr lurking in the dark, and your community a fragile thread stretched taut by scarcity. Here's a shocker to keep you hooked. These parallels breed strife as sharp as Viking feuds. Tor's diesel hoard, Prinjal Saga's tales of greed, led to a brawl at the festival. Eirik stepped between fists, his voice strained, but trust cracked like ice. The village's stew shared grudgingly, per Gragas. Asta's rationing, per Laxdala saga, sparked Ciri's anger. She stormed out, refusing dinner, her defiance a modern echo of Sigrid's silent withdrawal, per Havamal's cautions against pride. Lars's failed repair drew Tor's venom. His taunt of city boy led to a shove, per saga of the Greenlanders' duels over honor. Freya broke it up, but Lars shunned the next festival. Freya's fuel warning, per Heimskringla, blamed Ciri's family for overuse, splitting neighbors who once shared nets, per runestone curses on dividers. Modern Arctic studies report community rifts. Fuel disputes echo Thorvald's goat theft, per Gragas. Urban conflicts, office rivalries, social media spats, mirror Eirik's Thingstead brawls, per Poetic Edda's warnings of kin turn foe. These parallels aren't just resilience, they're a mirror of Viking strife, where survival breeds both unity and betrayal. Drop a comment if you'd share your last gallon of fuel with a neighbor who'd hoard it for himself, or if you'd face a coworker's jab with a Viking's axe-sharp glare. Didn't think so. The toll of these parallels is a modern spirit stretched thin, a cost as heavy as the frost that broke Eirik's back. Eirik's fuel rationing ages him, his eyes hollow like Eirik's when counting barley, Prinjal's saga. Asta's worry over Ciri's anxiety dims her warmth, her sleepless nights a shadow of Astrid's cough-racked vigil, per Laxdala saga. Ciri's anxiety silences her laughter, her smartphone a frail echo of Sigrid's Thor's hammer, per Birka's grave goods. Lars's feud with Tor hardens his heart, his tools idle like Leif's auger after a break, per saga of the Orkneyingers. Freya's tales bind but wound, her fuel blame isolates Ciri's family, per Heimskringla's omens of division. Modern Arctic studies mourn rising mental health crises, winter's dark fuels depression, per Tromsø health records, echoing Eirik's despair in the polar night. Urban burnout, per psychology journals, shatters workers like winter-shattered Bjorn, whose son died to a blot, driving him to mead in exile, per Gesta Denorum. A Tromsø fisherman, Bjorn, lost his job to a storm's damage, his family fractured, his drinking a modern mead haze, per Poetic Edda's warnings of once toll. It's like a modern life where your resilience is a wound, your fight a ghost that haunts your days, and your community a fragile thread frayed by the weight of survival. These parallels aren't just echoes, they're a living legacy, a testament to a Viking spirit that endures in our own struggles. Eirik's fishing, per Tromsø's maritime records, is Eirik's auger reborn, his net's a longship against the cold, Prinjal saga. Asta's pantry, per Laxdala saga, is Astrid's gruel pot, her rationing a dance with scarcity. Ciri's sweater, per Gulathing law, is Sigrid's cloak, her needles weaving warmth. Lars's snowmobile, per saga of the Greenlanders, is Leif's auger, his tools forging a path. Freya's tales, per Heimskringla, are Eirik's skaldic verses, binding kin against the dark. Modern Arctic communities, per studies, endure like Eirik's village, Their festivals a Yule blot, per runestones. Urban workers, per psychology research, grit through stress like Eirik's winter. Their hustle a saga, per Havamal. The Erbigja saga tells of kin like Eirik's. Their feuds and feasts a crucible for resilience. Their legacy a spark that burns in us. Let's drift deeper into this modern frost. The legacy is divine. Eirik's grit is Thor's hammer, striking against our winters. But strife mocks it. Per prose Edda's tales of gods betrayed. Freya's stories, per runestone please, bless her village. But her doubts divide, per gesta danorum. Modern faiths, community, work, hope. Echo Frida's omens, per heimskringla, but falter in our dark. Eirik's work is his faith, his fight a prayer to a world that offers no warmth, only the will to endure, per Havamal. It's like a religion where your god is resilience, your altar a hearth, and your salvation a spark you carry through the cold. This legacy isn't just a parallel, it's a call to endure, a Viking spirit that lives in our Arctic nights and urban days. Eirik's Tromso, per studies, is Eirik's longhouse, its glow of fire against the frost, per Njal's saga. Asta's pantry is Astrid's pot, her love a ration. Ciri's sweater is Sigrid's cloak, her hands a loom. Lars's snowmobile is Leif's auger, his craft a path. Freya's tales are Eirik's skald, her voice a saga. Urban workers, per research, are Eirik's kin, their grind a winter, per Havamal. The Erbigja saga tells of villages enduring, their legacy a spark we carry. As we float through the soft glow of this Arctic village, picture Eirik, his nets trembling in the cold, Asta's pantry thinning, Ciri's sweater frayed at the edges, Lars's tools dulled by use, Freya's tales fading in the wind. He's not just a fisherman, he's Eirik's heir, every ration a bond, every feud a break, every day a spark from a Viking fire that burns across a millennium. The modern parallels to Viking winter resilience are a crucible, forging us through grit and breaking us through strife, a legacy that ties our winters to theirs. Drop a comment if you'd ration your heat like a Viking facing a fjord's ice. Drop another if you'd feud for fuel with a neighbor's cold glare. Drop a third if you'd carry a tale through your own dark, fighting your draugr with a spark of Norse defiance. This was the cost of resilience, a spark kindled in the frost, a fire that burns in us still. If you think that's a timeless saga, brace yourself, because our final reflection will seal this frozen epic with a question to carry into your dreams. As the last flickers of a Norse hearth fade into the icy night, we reach the end of our journey through the brutal saga of Viking winters, a tale of survival carved in frost, where the cold wasn't just a season but a relentless foe that tested body, mind, and soul. From the merciless blizzards that buried longhouses to the endless darkness that haunted dreams, from the desperate scramble for scraps to the fragile rituals that held despair at bay, these winters were a crucible that forged the Norse into a people of iron will and fragile hope. For Eirik, Astrid, Sigrid, and Leif, every frozen dawn was a battle won against a world that offered no mercy, their saga a whisper of defiance against the snow. Close your eyes, let the soft murmur of a fjord's ice lull you, and let's weave together this chilling epic, finding gratitude in our warmer lives and a question to carry into your dreams. Picture Eirik one final time, hunched by a dying fire in his Greenland longhouse, 960 CE, his hands gnarled, his beard white as the snow that seals his world. He's 80, his eyes dim but fierce, telling a tale of Thor's hammer to Sigrid's newborn son, the child's tiny breaths a spark in the smoky gloom. Astrid is gone, her cough silenced, her loom a ghost in the corner, its threads a testament to her love. Sigrid, 30, hums softly, her own cough faint, her son bundled in furs she wove, her voice carrying Eirik's saga forward. Leif, 35, carves a rune for Freyr, his scars a map of winters endured, his gaze on the child, a hope that outlives the frost. The longhouse groans under snow, its hearth barely warm, the grain sack empty, the sheep skeletal. Outside, the polar night stretches endless, the wind howling like a draugr, but Eirik's tale holds the cold at bay, his voice a flame no blizzard can snuff. This wasn't a survival show's staged adventure, where a helicopter waits off-screen. It was a life where every day was a duel with death, every night a prayer for dawn. Their world was a forge of ice and hunger, their legacy a song of grit sung in the dark, a saga that makes your cozy blanket feel like a gift from Odin himself. Let's gather the threads of their frozen epic, because it's a tale as raw as it is haunting. We began in the grip of a merciless climate, where blizzards buried Eirik's longhouse, frostbite claimed toes, and darkness spawned draugr fears that haunted Astrid's sleep. The physical demands were a war, Eirik's axe swings, Astrid's gruel pots, Sigrid's sod patches, Leif's icy fishing, a grind that broke bodies but steeled souls. Community efforts were a fragile lifeline, where Eirik's village shared wood and hunts, but Thorvald's feuds and Frida's omens tore trust like ice underfoot. The mental siege was darker still. Endless nights crushed Eirik's hope. Draugr tales fed Sigurd's nightmares, but Thor's tales and Yule feasts kept despair at bay. Survival strategies, Eirik's grain rations, Astrid's woven cloaks, Leif's augurs, the Thingsted's oaths, were a thin shield, their social bonds as brittle as their tools. The legacy of these winters was profound. Sagas sang of Eirik's grit, artifacts whispered of Astrid's loom, and modern Arctic lives like Eric's echo their fight, our urban grind a faint shadow of their frostbitten resolve. It's like surviving a reality show where the stakes are your kin's lives. The prize is another dawn, and the host is a blizzard that doesn't care if you quit. Now, step back and breathe the warmth of our world, because the contrast is sharper than a Viking axe. Imagine Eirik in a modern supermarket, staring at shelves groaning with bread, fish, and coffee. No need to ration grain or boil bones. No fear of a draugr stealing his fire. Our homes hum with heaters, not smoky hearths. Our thermostats laugh at Norway's minus 30 degrees Celsius nights. We don't chop wood till our hands bleed or weave cloaks till our eyes fail. Our winters are tamed by Gore-Tex and grocery apps, not runes and blots. Our communities feud over parking spots or Wi-Fi passwords, not goats or grain. Our disputes don't end in Thingstead duels or blood on the snow. Our mental battles, anxiety, burnout, echo Sigurd's fears. But we have therapy apps, not Frida's blood-soaked omens. We don't sacrifice thralls for spring or carve runes against draugr. Our gods, if we have them, don't demand lives. Our legacy lives in tweets, photos, or love, not runestones eroded by frost. We're not Eirik's or Sigurd's, but we're free. Free to sleep without fear of a blizzard's wrath, to eat without rationing, to dream without a seer's curse. Drop a comment if you're grateful for a world where your winter's worst foe is a dead car battery, not a 6-month night. Yeah, thought so. This gratitude isn't just for comfort. It's a lens that sharpens our perspective. Eirik, Astrid, Sigrid, and Leif endured a world where survival was a saga of defiance against a cold that claimed limbs, lives, and hope. Eirik's axe swings were his rebellion, each log a victory over the frost. Astrid's gruel pots were her love, each spoonful a shield for Sigrid's frail frame. Sigrid's hum to her son was her courage, a lullaby that outlasted her cough. Leif's runes were his faith, each carve a prayer for spring. Their resilience humbles us. They face starvation, darkness, and draugr fears with nothing but grit, tales, and a fire that refused to die. Their legacy, sagas like Njal Saga, runestones like rock, artifacts from Birka's graves, cries we endured. A flame that burns in modern Tromsø festivals, in Eric's nets, in our own daily grind. It's like they built their longhouses not of sod but of will, daring us to carry their spark through our own winters, be they ice or inbox. Their saga holds warnings as sharp as their blades. Their feuds over goats, pergragus, mirror our squabbles over fuel or fame. Do we let scarcity divide us? Their draugr fears, per Bigja saga, echo our anxieties. Do we face our shadows with tales or tech? Their rationing, per Gulathing law, questions our waste. Do we hoard while others hunger? Their blots, per Heimskringla, challenge our sacrifices. What do we give for hope? Their resilience, per Havamel, urges us to endure. Do we grit through our winters or crumble? Their legacy is a mirror, showing us what to cherish. Warmth, kin, a tale told in love, not carved in stone. It's like their voices call across the fjords, urging us to live for the moment. A meal shared, a laugh unbroken, a spark kindled against the dark. Let's linger on a final vision, a spark to seal this saga. Eirik sits by his fading hearth, his tale of Thor's hammer weaving light for Sigrid's son, the child's eyes bright with wonder. Sigrid hums, her voice a thread from Astrid's loom, her newborn a hope that outlives the frost. Leif's rune, carved deep, prays for a spring he may not see, his scars a saga no skald needs to sing. The longhouse creaks, the blizzard howls, but their fire burns, a defiance no draugr can snuff. Eirik dreams of a simpler life, a farmer by a thawed fjord, his kin warm, his name unknown but his heart full, free of blots, feuds, and frost. He wakes, frail but fierce, and faces the dawn, his legacy not in runes but in Sigrid's hum, Leif's carve, a child's breath, a flame no snow can bury. He's a farmer, but he's a skald, his saga a whisper of love against winter's roar. It's like a man longing for a world where his mark is a smile, not a runestone, his eternity a hand held tight in the cold. This vision seals the Viking winter saga. Brutal, beautiful, a cry from the frost that echoes in our bones. We've walked their snowbound fjords, tasted their hunger, felt their fevered hopes. Now, as we drift toward sleep, let's hold their spark, live for the moment, bread shared, a tale told, a warmth kindled in love, not stone. Their world was a blizzard, their lives a flame, their legacy a lesson to burn bright before the ice claims us all. So, here's a question to weave into your dreams. If you faced Eirik's winter, would you chase the Skald saga, a tale of Thor, a runestone's plea, a name to defy the frost, or would you choose the quiet fjord, a life unsung but warm, where your saga is a child's laugh, a kin's embrace, a moment no blizzard can bury? Drop a comment with your choice. Let it glow as you drift off, dreaming of a world where you're not a skald, but gloriously, gratefully human. The longhouses crumble, the fjords freeze, and the Vikings' whispers fade, but your answer, your saga, lights this moment, a legacy no frost can touch.